What's up, everybody? Welcome to the unnamed solo podcast. I thought this would be a nice switch for the Thruline for 1 week. Get some episodes back recorded that are going to be coming out. But in all honesty, this is something I've always wanted to do. I like the idea of just sitting here chatting, going through some stuff. I got some notes. I reached out on social media to you guys. Did you have any questions, anything you want to talk about? And I figured I'd just get to it. Some dates coming up. There are a lot of them. I'm coming to Marco Island, Florida, August 15th through the 18th. I'm going to Sunnyvale, California, September 5th through the 8th. Hartford, Connecticut, November 7th through the 9th. Laugh, Boston, November 14th through the 16th. Vermont Comedy Club, December 12th through the 14th. And Portland, Oregon for New Year's Eve at Helium. Let me just tell you something, okay? Do you know how excited I am? I mean, what is it right now? It's July, right? It's July. But the idea that I get to be in Connecticut, Boston, Vermont, Portland, Northern California, any place that's got a cool climate. I just love cool climates, you guys. I love a cool climate. I like leaves. I like winter. Speaking of which, we're in the barn. And in the barn, I get some stuff on the wall. I get an axe. What does an axe say? It says you chop wood. When was the last time you chopped wood, you guys? I want you to ask yourself that. When was the last time I chopped wood? I know where I chopped wood last. I chopped wood in Colorado, and that was like 7 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago. And it was the best, man. Chopping wood. My buddy ordered a cord of wood, and we chopped it. When have you ever done that? It's the best. And, you know, that's part of the reason I'm doing this is because there's so many things that I love that we just don't talk about anymore. You know what I mean? There's things that just people don't do. They're like, why would I chop wood when I can have it delivered? Hey, Jay, why would I do that? I can just have it delivered. Shut up. Don't ever give anyone the excuse or reason why you don't do things because it can be done another way. That's just not an excuse. You think I chop wood because I can't have it delivered? No. Do you think somebody mows their lawn because they can't mow it themselves? No. It's all a choice. You mow a lawn because you love the idea of turning your brain off, hearing a mower louder than anything so that your brain just can think on its own. You love the smell of grass. You love the idea of cutting straight lines. Oh, is there anything better in the world than mowing a grass into straight lines? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think you might be like, well, gee, there's a lot. No. Trust me, we're going to get back to this. Because I'd like to talk about mowing lawn. We just had the 4th of July. I like the 4th of July. I don't get crazy about it. You know what I mean? That's my thing with 4th of July. I watch the fireworks. Anytime I see the fireworks, I'm like, oh yeah, those are pretty cool. But now it's like, this is like an old school thing. Like remember when fireworks were like the thing? My kids go nuts. They watch it. They're like, what? What is that? And they're just like, I don't know. It's the, you know. And now I watch it. I'm like, so what's the deal? Is that just like, those are just going to fall on the ground somewhere? Is anyone picking up those empty fireworks? Like, are they shooting them over the water? All those times they shoot them over the ocean. Do those things just fall into the bottom of the ocean? I'm like, I guess so. And then how are they even like, how do you even build a firework? It goes up and then shoots out these colors and they have it in order. Now I'm like, man, it'd be cool if they just got a picture. They shot up and did a picture, you know, of some kind. I still enjoy them. I remember one 4th of July, my wife and I, before we had kids, we drove up to like Northern California. Or we're driving. It's like an hour and a half north of Los Angeles, this little town called Solvang, and they had like a fireworks thing. We're like, oh, let's go to the fireworks. So we go down to the fireworks, we got some wine, and I think we got some meat and cheese, because that's what you do in wine country. There are so many things that we just do, because people are like, well, that's what you do. And I'm a one in Rome guy. I'm also like, don't stop and smell the flowers. But at the same time, this is my problem with everything in life. I'm on both sides of the fence with everything. You know what I mean? I can play either side. I wish to God someone had introduced me to a debate team in high school. I don't think we had one. There's a lot of things we didn't have. I'll be honest. It was a shitty high school I went to. We didn't have a lot of stuff. Mainly because you don't have money. I feel like debate teams are like a money school. If you have a lacrosse team, you had money. Your school had money. If you had a swim team, if you had a pool, get the fuck out of here. You guys had money. Just make sure I know where I'm at. Anyway, I take both sides of the coin. So, I'm a guy that's like, oh yeah, you're in wine country. It'd be fun to have wine. Who doesn't want meat and cheese with wine? It's a great thing. I was with a buddy, we went smoking cigars, and he's like, I'm going to get an orange soda. And I go, you getting an orange soda? And he's like, have you ever had an orange soda while you smoke a cigar? I was like, no. He goes, I don't know what it is. Something about the sugar. And I was like, oh. And if some of you have noticed, I'm off, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get trim. Not close enough. That's another issue we could talk about. Anyway, I'm like, yeah, I can't really have the soda, right? So then I was off, and then I had a cheat day. I have cheat day. And you know what? Shut up. Don't judge me because I have cheat days. People, oh, you have cheat. My wife used to make fun of me because when we were like, just married but no kids, I'd be like, oh, let's have a date night. She's like, yeah, I don't do date nights. And I'm like, yeah, I know. You have no feelings at all. You have no emotions, okay? We're doing a date night. She's like, I'm not doing that, Jay. That's for like old married couples who can't keep their marriage together. You know what we do now? We do date nights. What was the point? What was I saying? Anyway, date night. I was having a cheat day because when you're trying to lose weight, you got to have cheat days. Everyone's like, you got to have a cheat day. That's what I used to say to them. Like, yeah, fucking relax. I'm just going to go cold turkey. You know what happens when you go cold turkey? You go cold turkey, then you go off the rails. That's what I do. Cold turkey, off the rails, all the way back. Then I'm fat for 2 years. Then I go cold turkey, off the. It's just a continuous cycle. So what we did is, my wife and I, we put in cheat days. So I had a cheat day, went for a cigar, and I didn't get the orange soda. I got a bottle of Coke, and it was unbelievable. You're like, Jay, what does this have to do with wheat, meat, and cheese and wine? Let me tell you what it has to do with it, fellas. Ladies. Sometimes I'm a wine and Rome guy. Sometimes I'm like, no, buck the trend. What I mean is, sometimes with a bottle of red wine, chocolate is where you want to be. And not dark chocolate. I hate it. I've had to eat it more. But I hate it. Milk chocolate is where I want to be. I got white chocolate. My friends and I had the debate. What's a better candy? What's your favorite candy? You like Twix? We started going through it. When you're on diets, that's what you do. You just riff like, what about this? What about this? My buddy Jordan and I are both have been dieting. I'm going to jump around a lot. I'll always come back to zero. He and I were talking about, like being on this diet. And he's like, what do you want to, is there anything you miss? I'm like, there's nothing I miss being on a diet. But I'm like, I never crave pie. I just love pie. I just don't crave it, It's like, because you don't have pie a lot. Where are you having pie? You're having it like, you have pie at holidays, right? I made a cake for the 4th. Somebody brought a cherry pie. I'm like, I'm good. I'm good on the cherry pie. Pie I'm specific with. I don't like a lot of fruit pies. Blueberry pie? No. Why? I'm good. Strawberry rhubarb? No. Any rhubarb? Get it out. I don't need it. Boysenberry? No thank you. Apple pie? I'll do. Banana cream pie? I'll do. Otherwise, throw me some chocolate cream. My wife makes this chocolate cream pie. Graham cracker crust. Slam it. So anyway, my buddy and I'm like, I miss pie. And he goes, I say, how about this? When we both hit our goals of like where we're trying to get, we both have different levels. You're trying to get to a number or a waist size, whatever. I'm like, once we get there, let's go to House of Pies. It's this place in Los Feliz out here in LA, the east side of LA, and or easter side. And no one says that. No one says Easter. Well, it's Easter from here. And they're like, what's that? Like, more east. Well, you don't say Wester. So he goes, all right, go to House of Pies. I'm like, yeah, let's go to House of Pies. He goes, all right. And I go, here's the deal. We each get just a nice slice of pie. And I go, you know what? Fuck that. We get 3 pieces of pie. This place has tons of pies. And he goes, 3 slices? I'm like, you don't have to eat them all. We're celebrating. I'm like, yeah, it's wasteful, but who cares? This is a big moment. Let's enjoy it. Let's take it in. And he goes, okay. And then we sit for a second, and he goes, what kind of pie are you going to get? Because immediately, just that we had the idea in our head that we could have pie on this, we're not having anything, and now we can have 3 slices of pie. And immediately I was like, custard, no question, I want custard pie. If you have the toasted coconut, fine. I don't need to have it, but I will. Otherwise, banana cream, if you have it. Then I want an apple, but I want like that Dutch apple, where they do that like crumble or apple crumble on top. Get the fuck out of my face. That stuff's unbelievable. And then the third is going to be it's going to be a curveball. Because since I've been I try to be, I don't know why, I'm not trying to be, but what I do is perfect scenario guy. I'm a perfect scenario guy. If I can have the perfect scenario, I look for it, Recently, my wife let me go. Did I ever think I'd be my wife would let me go guy? Who says my wife let me? But you know what? Fuck that. I am a wife let me go. And everyone, judge me? Go ahead. You want to make a marriage work? Become a my wife let me go guy. What that means is I know that what I was going to ask for is going to be a stretch. Not a stretch, but it's like, hey, I'm asking for something here. And in a relationship that you want to have work, you ask. And you put it in a position like, hey, you cool with this? I'm never going to be the guy that's like, yeah, I told her this is what I was doing and she fucking did it because I said. That's not who I am. I went to my wife, I'm like, hey, is it cool if I go away for a night by myself up to Ojai? It's this little town north of Los Angeles. I'm going to go stay at a little motel. I'm going to write, swim. This is exactly what I did. First of all, she said, yeah. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, all you do. Why wouldn't I ask that? I wouldn't tell her, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. So I asked them, like, hey, I want to go up there. And she's like, all right. So I drove up. I left my house at 6 a.m., got up there at 7:30, had tea. At the time, I was off coffee. Right now, I'm on coffee. I need to go on and off stuff. You know what I mean? I need to go on. I need to go off. So I get some tea. Hang out for a while. I brought a book. I read a book. When was the last time you read a book? Felt so good. I just sat and I read. Then I went into the little park they have there and I walked around. Just took life in. With kids, and this isn't like oh my god, kids, they can't do anything. It's when you have other people that depend on you, like kids or a wife or a job, you just don't have time, or life can get in the way of you having time to do stuff like read books or walk through a park. And being able to go up there solo gave me the chance to do those things, Sat in the park and meditated, which was amazing. I loved it. Anyway, then I went to my motel. It's a nice little motel. It's got a little bar and a pool. I'm not drinking, but I like going to bars still. And this little tiny cabin they turn into a bar. It's so fresh. It was 11. I'm like, hey, any chance? I'm here early. I just figured I'd check. Like, oh, we have your room ready. I'm like, oh, boom. Checked into my room, jumped in the pool, went back to my room, wrote for 2 hours, went to the pool, came back, wrote for like a half hour, hopped on a bicycle. Yeah, you heard it right. A bicycle. So far, what have we talked about things that we should be doing more of? We should be chopping wood more. We should be reading books more. We should be riding bikes more. These are things we should be doing more of. It's just like, how do you fit them in? We're lucky to go for bike rides because you have kids. When you have kids, bikes find their way back in your life. I also live in a part of the country where you can bike a lot of places. The west side of Los Angeles, you can bike. It's the best. And you ready for this? When I got on my bike, I left my phone in the room. Every time I went to the pool, I left my phone in the room. I just was like, I don't need anyone, And it was a weird thing when you have kids, if anyone out there has kids, which people are making them, I've seen the population increasing, is you're just like, you think you need your phone all the time. I remember I was golfing one day, and it was like the 12th hole, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should check my phone and see if the kids are all right. And I went to go check it, and I'm like, what do you think happened? What do you think has happened that you need to check that phone? And second of all, what would you have done if you didn't have the phone? Or if you had been shooting all day? Or you'd been, I don't know, out of service. And I let it go. And I was like, no, someone else can. They're gonna find that everything's gonna be fine. One, everything's gonna be fine. Let's worry less. Everyone. Two, figure it out. Everyone will figure it out. Anyway, went in town, had lunch, rode my bike back, rode for an hour, jumped in the pool, rode for 2 hours. The bar opened at 4, sat outside the bar, had a soda water with a lime. Gotta have a lime. Sat there, writing outside. Some dude smoking a cigar. I'm like, I want to have a cigar. Went back to my little cabin, my little motel, and sat out front, had a cigar, taking in the world, kept writing, finished writing, jumped in the pool, jumped in the shower, got dressed, hopped on a bike, left my phone in the room, biked into town, and this is where perfect scenario comes into play. Jesus, Jay, it took so long to get to the perfect scenario. Let me tell you something. When I do this, okay, when I get in the cabin like this, when I get in the barn doors, I'm just going to go from thing to thing. I'm train of thought. That's who I am. This is what it's going to be. So I'm in town on the bike, and I'm a perfect scenario now. Now it's like, I got my night away. I want the best meal possible, right, that fits the way I've been eating. Because it's not like I'm just going up there, I'm going to go off the rails. Oh, I went off the rails last night. You know what's off the rails for me? You're like, what's off the rails, Jay? I took the kids to McDonald's, second time they've ever had McDonald's, and I went ape shit. Because I'm like, I'm going to cheat this whole day. And I had a Big Mac, I had a Chick-fil-A, I had a chicken sandwich, and I had a double cheeseburger. That's off the rails. Had an ice cream with the kids. Then at night, after the kids went to bed, I had 2 Eggo waffles with syrup. And then about an hour later, I had 2 more Eggo waffles with syrup. That's off the rails. I'm back on. But you got to have those cheat days and then get yourself back on. So I'm like driving around looking for a perfect scenario. And I go to one restaurant and it's like not a lot of choices, a couple things that I would like. And I'm like, no, get back on the bike, rode to another restaurant, packed, but there's seats at the bar. So I sit down at the bar. They have seafood, they have sushi, they have all stuff that I could like get a good meal in. But there's like 2 locals at the bar and they're like yelling across the bar to each other like, did you hear Karen died? Literally. Did you hear Karen died? Karen who? You don't remember Karen so-and-so? And she's like, oh, really? The girl from high school? And she's like, yeah. And then it turns out she committed suicide. And I was like, what do I want to do? I want to sit here and enjoy my meal, listen to these 2 yahoos talk about the fucking glory days? No, I don't. Hop back on my bike, went to another spot that I liked, but it was dead. And what am I going to do? I'm not talking to anybody, but I still like to be around energy. I want to see people. I want to observe. Got back on my bike, went back to a restaurant I went to, went back to that place with the local talk, see if they had cleared out. Now, every time I'm doing this, I'm taking the bike, I'm locking it up. Hour and 15 minutes. An hour and 15 minutes. And finally, I went to the place that was empty. Don't judge. You can judge me. Go ahead. I'm putting myself out there to be judged. I got a cauliflower pizza. Okay, that means the crust is made out of like cauliflower and whatever else. And a filet mignon entree. Got a soda water. Sat down. Only guy in the restaurant. Start talking to the bartender. Cool dude from like Wales who moved here. He was cool. Then like 2 other people came in. Some dude came in I did not vibe with. And he just had like this weird thing, and then he found out I was a comedian, so he's trying to like be funny. But even from jump, we were oil and water. Like, I would say things, he would say something weird, so then I'd say something weird. And here's my deal: if you're an asshole, if you're a dick, if you're rude, if you're an asshole, I love you. You know why? Because I'm gonna be that right back at you. I don't give 2 fucks. I don't give 2 fucks. I give no fucks. And so he's being a dick and annoying and kind of rude. And eventually he goes, hey, he loved comedy. And he liked a lot of comics that I'm friends with. Which I always appreciate that. I know some comedians don't like it. But for me, it's very rare to talk to anyone who loves comedy as much as comedians do. Or know comedy. I don't know if we love it. But like, we know comedy. We know all these comics. We know what they're working on, you know. So when you meet a fan that like is diehard and knows stuff about comedy, it's interesting. But this guy was such a dick, it wasn't interesting. And he goes, is it annoying for me to ask you all these questions? I go, bro, everything you've said so far has been annoying, so either way, it's not going to matter. And his friend looked at me and started laughing, and I was like, "Wait," I go, is he a dick? I mean, he's kind of a dick. And he's like, what? And he's looking at me, he's like, he goes, what did I say that is dick? I'm like, everything out of your mouth, bro. And the other guy was like, yeah, man, you kind of been a dick. And he's like, oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, nah, it's all right. Now it's like 9:30, hopped back on my bike, rode back to the motel, took 2 joints, went out to the pool. There's a little fire pit there, sat down with this couple and this other dude, smoked some joints. Loved it. Was in bed by 11, woke up at 8. I don't wake up at 8 anymore. Wrote from 8 to 10. Took my computer to a little breakfast spot, sat down around 10:30, wrote there for an hour. And as I'm sitting there, there's 2 kids. And it's like, they must have been like 12 or 13, 2 boys. And I'm like on the corner of the counter, and I'm here, and they're sitting right here, these 2 dudes. And I'm waiting for my breakfast. And the woman comes over to the counter, and these kids are so nice, super polite, like, yes please, thank you. I think they called her ma'am. They were just like, I was so impressed. I'm like, kids go out and eat at this age? Like, what do they do? Like, they may be 14. I don't think so. They were like 12. And I'm like, these kids are so impressive. And as they're sitting there looking at the menu, one kid says to the other kid, he goes, hey, I might need to borrow like $1 or $2 just because I just don't know how much I have, but like I want to be able to tip and I just don't know. And the other guy goes, don't worry, I got you. And I was like, who are these kids? And it really like took me back to when I was a kid and like my friends that I grew up with. I forgot that like we would do anything for each other. We'd give you our clothes, we'd give you our bike, we would, you know, like, you were just like, nothing was corny back then. You know what I mean? You were just like, yo, we're best bros. Like, I remember me and my buddy Rye one time went out and bought matching Florida Gator shirts and hats and then rocked them to school. We're like, what up? I remember in 6th grade, me, my boy Rye, my boy Dave, and Tony LeMay, we all went out and got flat tops and like came in with flat tops. Like, I forgot that you were like, yo, you were ride or die with your friends back then. And nowadays we just like get weird about stuff. I mean, you do it as like a gag, but, and this kid just being like, I got you. So I sat there and I ate and I got my tab, or I asked for my check, and the woman got it and she took my card, and I walked over to the cash register and I go, hey, can you throw those 2 kids, throw their breakfast on my tab? And she's like, I go, they're just so sweet. I go, do me a favor, don't tell them I did it until when they go to pay. Then tell them I bought it, and let them know that I said I have 2 kids, and I hope that they grow up to be as like aware and nice and respectful as they were, and it just reminded me of my childhood, and I just wanted to buy their lunch. And she's like, oh my God, they're so sweet, right? I'm like, yeah, they're just super sweet. Anyway, that's not like a, hey, look at me, I fucking buy people lunch. It's like, I think sometimes in general, myself specifically, forget that you can just do things without a, like, I didn't do it for any reward. I didn't even do it to talk about it here. I just thought about it when I was telling this story, because I just don't stop talking, and it's not the copy. It's just who I am. And it was just cool to be able to buy them buy them breakfast. I'm saying coffee because I want more. And anyway, I went back home the next day, flew home, drove home, and it was a great trip. Anyway, that was me trying to find perfection and stuff. God, where did we get to? How did we get to here? I think I know. It's back to that idea that there are simple things that you can just do, and you don't need to, just because there's a way to not do it, doesn't mean you don't have to do it. And that's maybe not real, but I was talking about mowing your lawn or chopping wood, or, it's like a lot of people now keep saying, I listened to this book. Podcasts are essentially, you're listening to entertainment. And I used to I judge a lot. I'll tell you not to judge, but I'll judge, and then I expect you to judge me. I used to think like if you listen to books, like everyone thought it. You're dumb. Oh, you can't read it, huh? And you just nowadays we have more time-saving devices than we've ever had in our life. I mean, a computer, the internet. You can just boom, Amazon Prime. There's all these things. And yet we still seem to be running out of time on them. Like no one can just sit and read a book. So if you're listening to books, go for it. I love it. What was the point? Oh, I'm just saying if you have things to save time, sure. But other things, it's like value over time, or what is your value of having time? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, does it take you time to mow your lawn? Yeah, it does. But is there value in mowing it? Does it give you a time to just like zen out? Do you like doing the work yourself? Do you feel accomplished when you do it? I started, in the last year really focusing on the idea that I like to feel accomplishment. It helps me later in the day. You know what I always wanted to be that I never was? I always wanted to be a guy that woke up in the middle of the night with an idea and had to get it out. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I had this idea and I just started writing, and the next thing you know, I wrote a book. Like, you've heard that story, or you see these like people on TV and you're like, I guess I could never be that successful because I don't know how to... I've just never been that guy. This morning I woke up, wife's out of town. I wake up, I don't know where my phone is. I've been trying not to sleep with the phone in the room. So phone's somewhere. There's no clocks in my house. We literally have, the stove clock, it's broken. The clock on the microwave, not set. The cable box doesn't have a clock on it. Then I don't have my phone. I don't know what time it is. And I was like, let's just go back to bed. But I couldn't fall back to sleep. And I was like, I could see a little bit of sunlight, or like light, not sunlight, but light outside. And I'm like, just get up. A couple things you want to work on. You can get up, then meditate. You can do all these things. I get up, find my phone. It's 4:55. And I was like, yeah, let's get up. Went into the living room, started writing. I have this couple things I'm writing on, but like couple things that had to get written out. And I just worked till 7 or 6:55 when the kids woke up, and I was like, oh man, that feels amazing. Anyway, I've never been that guy, and it felt good to just do it. Bottom line is, about 2 weeks ago, I started waking up at 6 a.m. on purpose. I would set my alarm, get up. I would start going to I set myself up for a gym class at 5:15 one morning, and my wife was like, what are you doing? You're going to go at 5:15? I'm like, yeah, I'll be home by 6:15. You want to leave by 6:30 to go to yoga. That way you can do them both, and then I'll just, I can do work until the kids wake up. And I did it, and then I started like, I'm going to start getting up at 6. And then from 6 to 7, I can just email, go to ESPN.com. I like to check box scores. I can meditate and do a little bit of writing. I can get that all in before the kids even wake up. And it's like, like that, everyone loves to share that Army sergeant talking at graduation, at that college graduation, if you can make your bed first thing in the morning, whatever he says. It's a great idea. You feel just a little bit of accomplishment early in the morning gets you amped for the rest of the day. Oh yeah, I want to be accomplished. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. So anyway, I've been finding getting up at 6, accomplishing stuff just leads to more stuff, People... I reached out on social media and said, oh, what are some accomplishments? Or, send me some questions if you have questions. So I have some I'm going to get to. I didn't think I would talk this long. I mean, I talk a lot, guys. I don't know what it is. I just have a lot of things I want to talk about. But it comes back to the idea of things that you can do that you don't need to do. You just do because they feel good. I don't need to ride my bike with the kids to school. I could, and it would be amazing. And we've done it a couple times, rode and picked them up. It's just it takes more time, It takes more time because I got to find a way to get there. You got to go up a big hill. It's a lot. And it's about 3 miles. but it's the best. Riding a bike is the best. It's beautiful out, you're getting exercise, you feel good. Nothing feels better than being independent of stuff. Like driving a car is amazing, you know? It's the best. It gets you from A to B, you don't have to do anything. Riding a bike, you're the one riding the bike, you know? Mowing the lawn, I love doing. I used to mow the lawn all the time. Chopping wood feels great. When you're putting the wood in the fire, you're like, I chopped that goddamn wood. My bed, I built my bed, you know? I was like, oh yeah, every time I go in the bed, I'm like, yeah, I built this goddamn bed. There's little things. Could I just buy a bed? Yeah. I built my kids' bunk beds, okay? First of all, let me just stop to say this. If there's anything I've talked about today that you're like, talk more about that, Jay, before you jump off into another thing, just let me know. And then in the next time I do it, I will. But I built the kids' bunk beds, right? Now, someone asked me about woodworking when I put that thing out there, and I'll mention their name. But I never did woodworking as a kid. I always appreciated it. Like my grandfather had like a workshop. He did a lot of stuff. He built cameras and like would show reel-to-reel films in his basement, but he redid the entire basement himself. He didn't have a lot of money, but he redid the whole basement and like had a room with a reel-to-reel that he would show into like this like, you know, the downstairs living room in the basement, and he'd be in his workshop smoking cigarettes, but he had like a little hole in the wall where he would show the movies through. But he had this workshop. He died when I was 5, but my Nana had that house till I was like 17, so we would always go to that, maybe 18. We'd always go to, and like I would play in his workshop, and he had the workbench, and he had like lacquer on it, and he had like old like pickle jars full of screws and all these cool stuff, and I've always loved I love workshops. I love at golf courses, they have like where you return the carts. They have like always have a little desk for whoever manages that area. I love that. I love any like office at a pizza place. Ever go to a pizza place and you go, can I use the bathroom? And you got to walk through and then you see a little office that's dirty. Comedy club offices, I love more than anything. They're the best. I love a comedy club office because they're usually like these small little weird knick-knacky places. I just love small, interesting spaces. How did I just get there? God damn it. What was I talking about? The workshop in my grandfather's house. So he had this cool workshop. I was never good at like building stuff, you know, like I didn't have a need to. There was no workshop in my house growing up. My other grandfather, that's this one. He was a baker, but he had an office in his house, but it was more of like a bookkeeping kind of thing. But he had like a garden and like a big garden. I never saw him build anything, but you know, there was no one was teaching me how to build stuff. And then I got this old wooden flooring, wooden flooring. My buddy Todd, T.O. Double, what's up, Double? He used to work for Interscope record labels, and he would engineer and do stuff around, you know, like sometimes you just do whatever needs doing, and they were putting in flooring, and he helped with all the install, and he would build out like the speakers and like the soundproofing and all that stuff. And he had all this extra wood, and he's like, do you want this extra wood? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, I think I could make a dining room table with this. Called my buddy who had tools. I was like, hey, can you help me? And he's like, help me set it up. Anyway, he left the tools in my house. I built a table. And that was that. He was like, man, give a guy some tools. Which, like, that should be the name of some woodworking show. Give a guy some tools. Hey, welcome back to Give a Guy Some Tools. I'm Jay Larson. But it's true. Like, I just had tools. And because I had tools, I made a table. And so I started then, I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. Like my buddy taught me some stuff, and then I just started buying tools off Craigslist, and then I built a little wood shop. And now I mess around, and I try different things. My bed is the best thing I've ever built. I love it. It needs some reupholstering at this point, but I always wanted to build the kids' bunk beds. So could I buy bunk beds? Yeah, I could buy bunk beds, but I'm like, no, I want to build them. So I built them out here in my alley, and I loved them. I built them. I'm like, yeah, these look great. Kids were at school. I'm like, I'll get these done before they get to school. My son had a concert that I had to go to at 4. And I'm like, boom, let me just get these in. I'll set them up. I'll put the mattresses in. It'll be ready to go by the time they get home. And I'll be able to get to the concert. I get in there. I set them up. Literally, my son's bed was 2 feet from the ceiling. I didn't do measure. I don't measure shit. Who measures? No one. Everybody who builds with wood measures. I'm just an idiot. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these bunk beds. I'm like, what the fuck? Literally, I had them set. Now, like, this is not the process. Like, I was like, now it's like 2:30. You know, I have a half hour, and I'm looking at them, and I realize not only are they not getting done today, I'm gonna have to spend a whole day the next day because now I gotta. You can't just trim them down and then put them back. I had to trim them, recut, redo all this stuff. It was gonna take a whole other day, and I was so annoyed at myself and just life, and I just scream at the top of my lungs. I'm like, you gotta be fucking me! My neighbors must have been like, oh, Jay's building again. Because I was so pissed. Anyway, the next day, I cut them down, redid them, get them all dialed in, and then my brother was in town, and my kids and my wife and I, we all painted them out in the alley together. The kids got involved. I helped them pick things out. They helped me with design elements. Like when I was going to do it, I drew it out. I'm like, what do you think? Should we do it like this? And I realized, I'm like, oh, this is just like, yeah, I could go buy bunk beds. By the way, the wood alone for the bunk beds cost me like $700 to buy bunk beds. And the mattresses were like $100 each. Would be like $600. I didn't even know until I went to a Target, an IKEA. I always like to buy old stuff because I like old stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to go to IKEA and just get some stuff. And I realize, I'm like, oh, there's so much cool stuff here that's so much easier. New stuff is easier. It doesn't break. It doesn't tinker. It doesn't, So I bought a bunch of stuff and I looked at bunk beds. I was there and I saw bunk beds. I'm like, look at those. I'm like, oh, one, lot lower. Still the one I have for my son. It's high. 2, they were like $500, $400. I'm like, I could have had bunk beds for $400, delivered, set up, cheaper, less time. But what happened? One, I got to build, which always turns my brain off and turns it on in another way. It like stimulates me to create, even outside of stand-up or podcasting or writing. It allows my brain to just like do stuff, and so I'm thankful for that. And then I got to build with the kids. They got to have a invested in the idea. They helped me design it. They painted it. So they take ownership. Now they see their bunk beds. Like, yeah, those are my fucking bunk beds. Everyone who comes to our house is like, you want to see our bunk beds? You want to see our bunk beds? And it's just a cool thing. You mow your own lawn. You take ownership. I have fake grass. I'm not going to lie. I have fake grass. I live in LA. There's a drought. There's only one way to conserve, and that's to put in fake grass. If I lived back in Massachusetts or the East Coast or in the South or Southeast, yeah, I would probably have grass, but I just don't. Either way, I want to live in a place where my kids have to mow the lawn because that's how you can start teaching them about money. They can start. When I was a kid, I mowed. My mom had a sit-down mower. It came with our house. What does anyone buy a house that comes with something? Houses don't come with stuff. This had a huge backyard. It came with a sit-down mower, a Surf, SERF. It was orange and white. And I fucking loved it. I swear to God, to this day, I think I am a really good driver and always was. Like, I've been in one accident in my whole life. And that's because I just gotten a tattoo and just broken up with a girl, and I was looking like this, and then turned, getting on the freeway, and someone, traffic wasn't moving at the pace it was right there, and I rear-ended someone. I was also, not super stable. I had just been crushed by a girl, just got a tattoo to try and fill a hole, all this shit. And I think I was a good driver because of mowing lawns, because I had to sit down. Literally, you'd sit there. I had the clutch on the left, brake on the right, and it had the you put on the brake and then put the clutch in, and then you had like first gear, second, reverse, neutral. So they were like three things, slow, fast. Oh, and then you also had something to lower the blade. So the blade was like underneath you. You sat there like this, blade's underneath you, and you could raise it and lower it. And I would sit there. We had like an acre. That my mom had a really big yard. It was like an acre of land. And I used to love just sitting there driving. Dude, being 15, being 16, driving, just mowing the lawn for an hour and a half. Sweaty. You had to go up to the bushes. I used to love driving into, nothing I love more than taking that mower, driving into a bush, so the bush is in my face, because you got to get all that grass up to it, in my face, finding reverse, punching it, getting out, going back in. Cuts. I used to love having cuts. So what happened? Mow my fucking lawn. That's what happened. I'm the man of the house. I mow my lawn. What do? I loved it. Friends would stop by. I would just be, you're driving. You don't hear anything. It's a beautiful day. All of a sudden I turned there right there. I'm like, what are you fucking doing here? I like getting scared. People don't like getting scared. I love it. I used to look for getting scared. I used to go for rides in alleys when I lived in Venice at night, being like, go ahead, fucking scare me, world. So I would mow my lawn. I was never the guy that had I could have set up in my neighborhood probably a business and just driven the lawnmower over. I could have just driven around the neighborhood. Didn't. But I would go to the town over. That's where my grandmother, this one's wife, and her two sisters, my Aunt Rue and my Aunt Gert, that's who raised me, is, my mom and then my Nana and her two sisters. And they lived side by side. So my Nana was 30 Larch Lane, and then Auntie Rue and Auntie Gert were like 32 Larch Lane, I think. I don't know the number. But 30 Larch Lane and then maybe 28 or 32, whichever. And their backyards, there was like a walkway between them, and you could go to their houses. So they would pay me, and I would mow my Nana's front yard and backyard, and then my Aunt Rue and Auntie Gert's backyard. Auntie Rue wouldn't let me mow the front yard. She hired a pro for that. She's like, no, that's got to look nice. You can't be touching that. You can do the hedges? I'm like, I don't do hedges. I do yards. We did have a hedge thing. I would do it at my house. I loved it. And I've had this discussion with friends now, like who mows their lawn and who hires someone to mow their lawn. And I mean, it's back to reading books. Who has time to read books? What's the advantage of reading a book versus listening to a book? What's the advantage of mowing a lawn versus hiring someone to mow? I don't know. I like to think that when and if someday I have a yard, that I'm going to mow it, and I'm going to teach my kids to mow it, so that I can give them a job and they can make a little money and they can help out. But until then, I miss it, man. To this day, if I'm driving anywhere and you smell it, you smell cut grass, I'm going to go a step further. I had in high school cologne called grass. Just called grass. That's a fact. Grass. And it was made by the Gap, because I shopped at the Gap, and it was the best. And then they discontinued it, and then they made Earth, and I wore Earth. Oh, man. Yeah, I went through a Calvin phase. I had Calvin. I was never, Cool Water or whatever that other stuff was. But anyway, I love those colognes. I liked female scents. You know what I mean? Always did. Maybe because I was only around females. I mean, I used to wear my mom's deodorant. I never bought deodorant. I hate the smell of men's deodorant. I hate it. Anytime I'm around a dude and it's like super musky, I'm like, dude, do you understand how bad that smells? Who wants musky cologne? It smells gross. I want something that's like flowery, I use the same deodorant as my wife. I don't give a shit. I'm pH balanced, baby. It's my license plate, pH balanced. Man. Mowing lawn, dude. I mowed that lawn, and we had it forever, that sit down, until one day, I'm mowing the lawn, The other thing that would happen is you'd run out of gas. So I'd like run out of gas in the middle of the yard. And then I used to love getting off the mower and walking all the way to the front to the garage. I used to love going in my garage. You know, I was like an old man. I'm talking like at 12, like in my garage. My neighbor, Mr. Murphy, come across. What are you doing, son? I'm like, Dad, mowing the lawn. What are you doing, Murph? I used to love it. So I go to the garage, get more gas, take it out, refill out there in the middle of the yard, then bring the can back and finish up, you know. So one day, I'm mowing the lawn, and my buddy Joey shows up. I'm like, what's up, Jojo? And he's like, hey. He goes, let me get on that mower. Let me give it a twirl. I'm like, all right, here's the deal, though. You got to be careful. Because, I mean, this thing was old. My mom bought that house. My mom and dad bought that house in 1978. It came with the mower. That wasn't a new mower. It wasn't like, hey, you buy this house, we'll throw in a new mower. It wasn't a used car salesman. It was just, hey, this is a house. We got this old mower. It's a big yard. That was what it was. You know, and I'm like, listen, this is how you lower the blades, this is how you do this, blah, blah, blah. Don't fuck around. You got to have that clutch in, brake on when you're shifting. He's like, I got it. And he broke that goddamn mower. And we never were a family that had money to fix things like a lawnmower. There were times where the washing machine was broken for a while. You know what I mean? That was just the way it was going to be. There was no room in the budget in my house for extra stuff. It was like, well, if that's gone, it's gone. And it literally, the whole yard turned into like overgrown for a long time until my neighbor finally stepped up and started, you know, trading my mom. She gave him our garage to store his car, and then he mowed, and he did it. He didn't hire anyone. He mowed and still does my mom's yard. The best. He's the best. Tommy Scappa. Yeah. Joey broke that goddamn mower. And to this day, he's like, nah, I didn't break that mower. I'm like, yeah, you did. You broke the mower. That's, I don't know how else to lay this out. I don't know how to map it out for you, but you broke the mower. God, mowing lawns. Mowing lawns. I'm going to call him. And that's it. Let's get him on the horn. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's see what he says. See that? Denial. Everyone's in denial. You know, people also, you know, they ask whether or not I killed my. We still have debate over who killed my dog. That's another story for another time. I'm glad we got a chance to talk to Joey about that one. You see how people do it? That's how they do it. Let's get to some of these things that I reached out to people about that were kind enough to reach out to me and, you know, let me know what's going on. Someone asked me my lowest score in golf. My lowest score in golf ever is a 77. Oh, yeah. You should be impressed. You should be impressed. It's a good score. A couple of musical questions. I did have woodworking in general. Could be their theme of getting into this because you just want to do them. I mentioned to Jimmy Robes. Oh no, that's. Hold on a second. About the woodworking, I mentioned earlier. I don't know anything about it. I just do it, and I think that for everybody, if there's something you love or something you want to try but you don't know how to do it, just go do it. My friend, who's in woodworking, by the way, Alex, if you want to follow him on Instagram, Alex Hands Are Great. He does amazing stuff. He's a finished carpenter, but his passion is wood. So like at home, he makes bow and arrows for his kids. He makes knives. He makes guitars. Well, he made my son a ukulele, this beautiful ukulele, when my son was born. And we have it. And I keep telling my son, I'm like, don't you want to take guitar lessons? Let's get guitar lessons. He's like, I want to learn drums. And I play drums. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to play drums. You want to play guitar. And everyone's like, well, who cares? He wants to play drums. And I'm like, because you're not going to be fucking camping at 19 with your friends, and you're going to bring a drum set down to the beach around a fire in Malibu and play drums. That's just not going to happen, okay? But you know what you might do? You might have a guitar there, and you might be sitting there playing fucking, you know, Hotel California. Or if you had a ukulele, you could play like a little, you know, something fresh or an original. How about an original? Or like a little goofy song that everyone goes around and makes up a song. And then what's happening? Somebody, guy or girl, I don't know what my kid's sexuality is going to be, is going to be listening and being like, how fucking rad is this kid? I want to make out with him and maybe do a little more. That's a fact. You play drums, cool. When is that band ever going to take off? Who knows? But you play guitar, boom, you're at a fight. Girls are like, what? Dudes are like, what? Everybody loves music. Recently at the Comedy Store, I was backstage in the main room, and Kyle Dunnigan was like playing piano, and I was sitting there with him, and it's dark, and he's like playing Elton John. I'm just singing with him, and I'm like, this is the best. I need to learn how to play an instrument. So the other day during 4th of July break, I'm sitting there and I see the ukulele, and I always tell the kids, you should play ukulele. And I'm like, no, you play, dumb fuck. And I looked online, how do you play ukulele? And it's like, well, here's 4 chords. C, G, A minor, and F. There's like 4 chords. And it's like, learn those. So I just sat there, wrote them on the chalkboard, sat in the kids' nook with them. They got like, we have this nook where they have their desk and like bean bags and books and a chalkboard. And I just sat there and just practiced. And the kids are hanging out and they're just there with me. And it's like, if you want to do something, just do it. You can do it. We all tend to look at things and say, I don't know how to do woodworking. I don't know how to play ukulele. Yeah, but I used to look at comedy that way. Like when I was real young, I would look at comedy and comedians. I wasn't into a lot of comedy as a kid, like I really liked The Cosby Show, and I had seen Bill Cosby when I was young. Like my mom took us to see Bill Cosby when I was 10, and I saw that stand up. And then The Cosby Show, obviously everybody watched it, and I was like, oh man, like that's what this person does, and all those actors. And then I went away. My mom used to run a dance camp, and I had to go, and we just like all day I had nothing to do, but there was a choir camp, this boys choir from San Francisco. These kids were like super talented, and I would hang out with those kids. But when they went off to do classes, I would just sit in their room, and like one kid had Delirious on cassette, and I just listened to Eddie Murphy Delirious and was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Which is funny because now that I'm thinking of that, I'm like, man, I don't really have a thirst for comedy like I did then. Like I was like listening to it. Anyway, I was like, oh, this is what this guy Eddie Murphy does. And then I saw Chris Rock, and I was a huge Seinfeld fan. Like, Seinfeld was my favorite show. That's all I watched. So I just look at them like, oh, that's what they do. And it wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles and tried to do it, more specifically, it wasn't until I saw Good Will Hunting that I'm like, oh, anyone can just do this? Because I just thought of those guys as they grew up near me, and they did it. So anyway, with woodworking, no, I had no experience. Someone asked me like staining and stuff like that. Like I'm not a pro. I don't claim to be, and I don't want to be. I like being a guy who fucks around and builds stuff. And when I have more time, or rather when I own a home, so I know that this thing is going to be in it. Like my bed for me and the wife, I put a lot of effort into, and it's the best thing I've ever made because I knew it was something I wanted to have forever. Everything else, I'm like, oh, it's temporary. And like, I don't build stuff for my, I put in fake grass because I wanted to have a yard, and that cost me money. And people are like, well, you don't live there. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to pay off because we use it like another room now. We have a place to go. And like the playhouse I built for the kids, I'm like, doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be done because they're only going to use it for like 4 years and then it's going to be gone anyway. So bottom line is the ukulele, the woodworking, just do it. Guy who hit me up who says he's got to do stand-up because he lost his fantasy football league. Kevin Brocious asked for some advice. How to do stand-up? What advice? You're just going to have to get up there and just do it. There's no advice. Don't put expectations on wanting to crush. Don't think if people aren't laughing, you're tanking. It's just what it is. You're probably going to be terrible, especially if you're doing it because you lost the bet. If you really want to do it eventually, hit me up and I'll DM me somewhere. By the way, if you ever have any questions, you can always email me at Holiday Bakery Productions, or you can hit me up on DMs. I think the email is the best way to go. Someone else asked me, Cruz Martinez. Is that your real name? Isn't that, no, Cruz Ramirez is the character from Cars. played by Cristela Alonso. How do you get in the game? You just have to get up and start doing open mics. And if you really care about it, again, anyone who loves stand-up and wants advice on it, do it for at least 6 months of open mics and then DM me, and I'll let you know. R Styles on Instagram asked me, what's the secret to happiness? I got to be honest with you. Something I started doing recently that if you are open to it, I think it's a really good idea, is I started every morning writing down something I'm thankful for. And it's been really eye-opening because you don't realize how easy it is to think about the things that aren't happening in your life if you're not appreciating the things that are happening. So I don't know what the secret is. Everyone finds happiness differently, obviously. But I found recently that writing down things that I'm thankful for, it changes my outlook on the day. Like I said, I also like getting up early now. I like being awake before the world. Ooh, that's not a book title. Awake before the world. Is a great way to just get a better hold on life and stuff like that. Jimmy Robes. Is that your last name? Robes? Or is it Robes? How do I deal with procrastination? I accept it, bro. I accept it. I procrastinate like crazy. Sometimes, not as much recently, but like people always say, like, if you want to be a writer, you should write every day. You should write every day. And I think that's probably really good advice. It's just not something that I can stick to. And then what happens is if I don't do it every day, then you start to feel like a failure. And then you feel like a failure. So why even try? And I just started accepting the fact that I do procrastinate. But when I do work, I grind. So, like, I wanted to write this show about a chef, and I've been procrastinating. Before I say that, I write goals. I set goals. I write them all the time. I write them for the week. I write them the night before the day. I write them for the year. Sometimes I'll take, like, a 4-month chunk, and I write goals for what I want to do, you know. And one of the things was this script, and I just hadn't gotten to it because I kept procrastinating. But what I did is I stopped looking at it as procrastination, and I just started looking at it as my process. My process is think about the idea, then start think about it a lot, do stuff like building things and think about it. I take notes, I write them, and then, I give myself deadlines. So instead of being like, well, and if I don't hit that deadline, you have to adjust. You got to start at some point. I think the two hardest things in writing anything is starting and finishing. Everything in the middle is super easy. And I think that's with a lot of stuff. It's like you got to work up that will to do it. And once you do it, then you're like, all right, I'm in it, I'm doing it. Whatever it is. And then in the middle, it's easy because you already got through the hard part. But you didn't know that the second hardest part is finishing. That's hard because now it's like, are you going to show the world? What are you going to do with it? The fear of there's the fear of trying, and then there's the fear of it actually being something. That are two. Again, get further into it. You can DM me and I'll answer it. Someone asked, with my mom's background in music in my family and stuff like that, what in my musical interest in school, how come I didn't pursue music a little more? This is Ivan Guerrero. And then Sina Bleak, what's my favorite genre of music and why? So those are two things. One, I just wasn't good, man. I wasn't good at music. I'm not good at it. I can't sing well, although I've been trying more. And like I'm trying that ukulele because I'm like, oh, maybe I am. I could be okay. Because I think anyone can be anything if you try and you practice and you work at it. I never like took to it. And as far as like genre of music, I like the only thing I've been listening to, I like depressing music one. So like we do playlists and we have these Sonos speakers that are all around the house. And then because I love old school, I put them inside these speakers so it looks like they're old speakers because I like the way old stuff looks. Why do you like old stuff, Jay? I like it. I love how cool this amp looks that my boy Logan gave me. I love this old fucking... Well, I mean, that's not old. It's just a nautical buoy. I love this thing from the 70s. I don't know why. I like mid-century furniture. I like old stuff. Anyway. So lately, I've been listening to like 3 channels. I listen to War on Drugs playlist channel, and it just like plays a bunch of stuff that's War on Drugs or sounds like it. I listen to the National channel and Beach House. Those are the 3 bands. My wife is like, "Can I put something more uplifting on?" I'm like, "Yeah." Why? Do you think the kids are sad? And like they're just in the corner like humming to these melodramatic. So those are like the 3 channels I've been listening to the most. But I gotta be honest, I bought this jacket. That's another thing. I kind of love fashion, but I'm not like fashion sense. There's certain things I like, when I see clothes, but I don't know a lot of stuff, Like Chris D'Elia is like always like fresh. I'm like, where'd you get that thing? And I have other friends that are like they get it, you know what I mean? I don't get it. I just see stuff. I'm like, I like it, I buy it. So I saw this jacket, and it's like blue satin, and it's got this black angel on the back, and it says Child of Golf. But it's like Tyler, the Creator, started this brand called Golf. And I think the whole point of his brand is that, like, black youth needs... Golf doesn't include black... I don't know if this is correct. Golf doesn't include or, make itself accessible to, like, the black community. So he made it Child of Golf, not Child of God, and made this streetwear for, like, African American dudes, young, like 18-year-old to 25-year-old, like you know what I mean. So I went in there and I tried this jacket. I'm like, yo, I gotta have this, and it's affordable. And I'm like, I love this jacket. Then I found out it's Tyler, the Creator, and I found out like the point behind the brand. And my wife was like, yeah, Jay, that's like meant for like young African American like kids, as a way to identify. I'm like, yeah, that's me. At the end of the day, that's me. That's how I identify. You know what I mean? Like, and I just love the jacket. I'm like, I want to be fucking dope. And so then I was like, well, I should listen to some Tyler, the Creator if I'm like checking out his brand. So then I started listening to like Tyler, the Creator, and then like more hip hop and like trying out more stuff. And then my wife was like, you're 43 years old. And then I realized, I'm like, yeah, but I kind of love hip hop because back in the day, that's all we listened to. Before hip-hop, we were listening to BBD, New Edition. I was like, that's all I would listen to. And then, like, Public Enemy as a kid, Run DMC as a kid. That was, like, all we would listen to. So I started trying to listen to that more. Anyway, I wish I knew more about music. I'm never, like, the guy that, like, wants to go to a concert because I'm always like, I don't know. I kind of like the radio version. Like, we went to see Vampire Weekend, like, I don't know, 4 years ago. And I was like, I just want it to sound like I listen to it, I'm still trying to find music and how it fits in my world. Oh, did I just have a realization? Jason, you had a realization. That's my mother. Well, hello, Jay. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's good to still like not have answers to things about yourself. I don't know a lot about music. I'm always looking for people to introduce me to music. My friend asked me recently, like, what do you listen to? And I was like, dude, you like Beach House? And he's like, never heard of him. I'm like, give him a shot. I think you might dig him. So I got to check in with him and see what he thinks about Beach House. Someone else asked me, what are these glasses? This is the last thing I'm going to say. I'm going to save that. This was fun. I don't know what this is going to be, but I want to do more of it. If you like this, you'd like me just sitting here riffing, talking, things to talk about. I always find, like, in my stand-up, I love to do crowd work. In life, I talk to people at the grocery store. I just love people. And one of my favorite shows ever, do yourself a favor. Go look up Huell Howser. Huel Howser. Howser. I think it's Huel. He used to host this show. It's like PBS or public access, only in California, where he goes around to small towns and interviews people. But like he's a little corny. He'd be like, "Well, that's just terrific. I think that's great. We're here in Oxnard, California, at the Strawberry Festival." And he only interviewing like old white people. You never see anyone hip or fresh, And Huell wasn't the hippest dude. And he was old when he started doing this show. But I love it. I just love it. I like in my core. I'm Huell Hauser. I'm Huell Hauser who buys clothes made or designed by Tyler the Creator. And I just he has a fascination for people and talking to people, and that's me. So I want to know stuff that you guys want to talk about, and sometimes I'll answer them directly like I did today. Other times I'll like tell stories on it, riff on it, and make it a part of what the whole podcast would be, because I have a curious mind and I love old stuff, and I love fashion, and I love music. I'm just trying to figure out more, and I love comedy, and I love writing, and I love art. There's a lot of things that I love, and I want to know things that you love, and I want to talk about them. I want to explore them, and I want to do this more often. So keep on listening. Social media, I'm out there. I'm on Jay Larson Comedy, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Instagram seems to be the place I'm at most. I've been posting a lot of old stand-up clips and stand-up clips from my special, and I'm going to continue to do that. I just feel like that's where I can do everything. It's too much for me, to be honest. I'm trying to limit my screen time, because I'm just like, why do I want to be in this fucking damn phone when I can be in this world around us? You know what I mean? So Instagram is kind of like where I spend the most time. And honestly, I just have been trying to like post it and leave it. But if you DM me or hit me up, then I will address stuff. And maybe eventually I'll just start a new email where you can just email, so it doesn't have to be. Although we can interact through social media. I appreciate you guys for listening and watching. And let's do this again.